Good morning, since it is morning here again. My students and colleagues in speech and communication here. So this past week you worked on a speech for us, and Allie and I should have some feedback to you this coming week. I'll have a few things to say. I've watched several of them so far. I have not had a chance to see all of them yet. You'll get individual feedback, but we'll also have some general feedback for you in terms of that, and I'll have a few things to say about that in a few minutes as well. We're building up here now in the next couple of weeks to your very first big speech. Okay, so not this week, but next week, the exact assignment, the specific assignment for that will be available on the Angel page, so you'll have all the details for that. And this week, in your readings and in the discussion, we'll sort of be nudging in that direction. But you need to anticipate more reading this week than last week for sure. There wasn't very much last week. And in the next several weeks, there is quite a lot of reading. So you want to make sure that you're allowing enough time for that to happen. The reading isn't difficult. And as I said, I think I said last week in the video for you, that none of this is rocket science. Okay, this is not brain surgery. So the concepts we're discussing are not particularly challenging concepts. But taking those ideas and translating them into a good, well-written, well-delivered presentation is difficult. That's challenging. We'll talk in a little bit here about writer's block and speaker's block. So some of those things that cognitively can be more challenging about this process. In any case, we're building up to that first big speech, and that'll be a 4 to 6 minute speech that will be an informational speech. And again, you'll have that assignment sheet, so all the details on that in plenty of time to get ready and prepared to do that speech when the time comes. Some things that we're going to be talking about this week over the next several minutes. Stage fright, all right, so anxiety before giving a speech or a presentation. Thinking about some foundations of your public speaking for this semester and for the rest of your lives. So things about planning, topic selection, and developing thesis statements, and also audience analysis. So that's where we're headed here in the next couple of minutes. Excuse me. Let me talk a little bit about these weekly mini lectures that we're taping here. You've got a really wonderful textbook. The Speaker's Handbook is really, really quite good. And very efficient as well. There's lots of information in here and lots of good stuff, but it doesn't go into real depth in a whole lot of stuff. But there's a ton of stuff here, and obviously I can't touch on all that stuff in the little bit of time that we have here together. So what I try to do in the brief time I spend with you here on the video is to hit on some golden nuggets. So after 12 years of teaching and after a lot of time as a public speaker myself, what are the things that I think are really, really central to making this work well for you? Those are the things that I kind of touch on here. Be careful, that does not mean that the other stuff in the textbook is not relevant. Okay, there are lots of things that I decide to not address here because I think the textbook does a particularly good job of that. All right, so I'm not trying to replace the textbook here. I'm trying to take what's in the textbook and pull out for you things that I think are truly essential for your experience and for your success in the class and in your life as a public speaker. Now, let's talk a little bit about stage fright. First thing to recognize is that almost everybody gets nervous when they're in front of a group of people making a presentation. I get nervous every time before Allie turns on the video camera here for me to record something for you. I get nervous before every lecture I deliver in front of a face-to-face class of students. I get nervous before every time I often deliver sermons in front of my church, or when I'm giving a speech or a presentation at a conference. I get nervous, and I've been doing it a really long time. Truth is, most of us feel that way. If you are someone who doesn't have any stage fright or performance anxiety in that regard, more power to you. That's wonderful. I'm dubious. I'm dubious, right? I think everybody experiences that. But maybe there is someone out there who doesn't experience that. More power to them. But for those of you who are petrified of this concept, you're not alone. And there are really productive, good ways to work on this and improve it and make it better. Remember, public speaking is a skill. Okay? It is like anything else that is a skill. The more you do it, the better you become. Okay? And that's what we're working on this semester together. On our webpage, on the Angel page, we have put up a nice folder there with some stage fright resources. Some of them come from Toastmasters International, which is a nonprofit organization for professionals who are in the workplace who feel like they need to work on and improve their public speaking skills. I am not a member. I don't think you need to become a member. But those are people who probably didn't have the luxury or didn't have their university enforcing on them this general education requirement that they take a public speaking course. So they found themselves in the workplace and thinking, oh wow, I need to get better at this. You have that opportunity this semester, okay, to work on this and get better at it. But Toastmasters does have some good resources, and I've made a few links there in terms of stage fright for you to look at. Quick reading, you can go through all those links probably in 15 minutes, but look at them because there are some really good golden nuggets there that are really useful for you. So let's talk a little bit about some strategies that I know have been effective for me and are effective for students, and also empirically through our research we know that they're effective as well. One is what we'll call worst case scenario thinking. Now this is a good general strategy not just for stage fright, but also for anxiety in your life in general. I am not a psychologist, but this is something that I think psychologically healthy people often engage in to accommodate anxiety in their lives. So one approach to this is think about, why am I nervous? So you're in front of an audience, what is it that's making you so nervous? So play that out a little bit in your mind. What's going to happen to you if the worst possible thing happens to you when you're in front of that audience? Maybe you're up in front of an audience and you pass out. Or you're up in front of an audience and you feel nauseous and you run out of the room. Is that the worst thing that can happen to you? Maybe. Maybe you can think of other things that would be worse for you. But so what are the implications? What's the impact of that worst case scenario? Okay, are you going to fail the speech? I doubt it. It would be a cruel professor who would give you an F, right, for having stage fright or anxiety. It would be a cruel audience who wouldn't have some sympathy for you in that situation. So the worst case scenario almost always is not as bad as the anxiety you have fearing that worst case scenario. So that's a really useful way of thinking through and sort of rationalizing your anxiety, and it's effective. Notwithstanding, however, by far the best way to deal with stage fright is good preparation. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Don't indulge your tendency to procrastinate, because procrastinating for a final exam or for a homework assignment is one thing, but when you procrastinate for a speech, and you're an hour away from giving the speech, 15 minutes away from giving the speech, and you feel like you're not prepared, well, that's a terrible feeling. So prepare. I encourage my students to have their speeches prepared enough in advance that they're able to rehearse it at least 10 to 12 times. Now, most of you are thinking, he's nuts. There's no way I'm doing that. And I know that most of you won't, and that's okay. But you need to realize good preparation requires time, and investing some time in that. So preparation and practice, by far the easiest and best ways to deal with your anxiety. Stage fright and anxiety are physiological responses. So as human beings, we have evolved with a fight or flight response. So that when you are anxious, your body starts to pull the major flow of blood into your internal organs. So your hands get cold, you might start to sweat a little bit. Ways of dealing with that are also physiological responses. Deep breathing is very effective. You often see speakers before they start their presentation take a deep breath. That releases anxiety and gets you ready to move forward into what you're doing. Also, brief physical exercise. It's going to sound odd, but some of you maybe who have been involved in drama or athletics know this. Do 10 push-ups, right? Jump up and down, do some stretches. That gets your blood flowing, and it focuses your mind on the task at hand. So that can also be helpful to you. Lastly, I want to talk about visualization. Visualizing yourself doing well and doing what you're doing. This is good for dealing with stage fright, but it's also good for improving your performance. And again, those of you who have been involved in athletics or theater or drama or dance may know this and have done this. But there's this great story about a basketball team. There was a research study done on them, and they took half the basketball team, and for 3 entire weeks, they would take the last half hour of their practice, split the team in half. One half of the team would go out onto the basketball court and shoot foul shot after foul shot, right? Perfect practice, okay? Practicing it again and again. The other half of the team went into a dark room and they did guided imagery, guided visualization. Imagine yourself out on the basketball court doing what you need to do perfectly every time. It's exactly the situation you want. It's the championship game. Stands are full of people who want to see you win. You're at the foul line, your team is down by 1 point. Bounce, bounce, shoot, swish, perfect. Bounce, bounce, shoot, nothing but net. Perfect shot, you win, the crowd goes wild, right? So you imagine yourself doing that over and over again. They bring the two sides of the team back together, and you know what I'm going to tell you here. They did a test to see which half shot better foul shots. And it was the team that did the guided imagery and visualization for that period of time. Guided imagery and visualization is useful and important. And it can be a really effective tool for dealing with stage fright as well as improving your performance in general.